Hey everybody, Ian Campbell here with Mission Suite. I'm still stuck outside, although, stuck outside in the middle of, at the end of June, whatever, not a bad place to be. But unfortunately my garage is still out of order, so I'm hanging out here in front of the brick on the outside of it. Today, I hope you're all having a great Thursday, by the way. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about the information that you should be collecting in your CRM for your contacts. So this is a conversation that I have a lot with new clients, because one of the things that we do when we take on a new client is actually go through a whole setup process. For those new clients, we build out all of their custom fields, among other things. And one of the big questions that we ask is, what sort of information do you need to store on your contacts, right? So whether it's a networking lead, a customer, a prospect, somebody that you're in the middle of a sales process with, what have you, you want to make sure that you're collecting and storing all the information that's going to help you either close the deal or help you serve that client better, that customer better, or just help you know a little bit better about what to send, what information to send to that client, how to target to that client, whatnot. So there's a few things that we focus on with that, but like I said, we go through that with every new client in our setup process. So, but the big question that I always get is, well, what should I be collecting? Well, that's what I figured I'd talk a little bit about today. So because there's a number of different reasons to store data. Obviously the three that I just mentioned, but there's also some ancillary benefits that you may not recognize right off the bat. So first of all, let's talk about what information you should be storing. So obviously there's the basics, right? First name, last name, company, email address, phone number, website, address, all that good stuff, right? LinkedIn URL, whatever the case, whatever you need to collect just to be able to connect with that person, right? Because ultimately the key goal of this is to be able to connect with the people in your database a little bit more effectively. And so all the basic stuff, that first name, last name, etc., should all be there. And any CRM, for that matter, any email platform, any invoicing platform, anything like that should have all that information for you right off the bat. So it's not so much about those kind of standard fields and should I be filling out that information, because you're the only one that's going to be able to answer that. What I want to talk a little bit about is custom information, because again, any CRM that's worth its salt should be able to store as much custom information as you need. There should never be a limit on the amount of information that you could store on your contacts. If there is, you're with the wrong CRM, and I have no problem saying that. If you have a limit on the amount of information that you can store on one contact, you need to change CRMs. I'll just throw that out there. But either way, so talking a little bit about what you should be collecting, what you should be storing in that custom information. So first of all, let's talk. So what I tell people is, first and foremost, think of your qualifying question. When you meet a client, when you meet a customer, when you get together with a new contact and you're trying to determine whether or not they might be a good fit, or if you're in the middle of kind of a first meeting, maybe you met them at a networking event and you're going out to a coffee and you're having a conversation over breakfast or whatever the case might be, what questions are you asking them every single time to determine whether or not they're a good fit for your product or service? That's number one. So if you can, first of all, any sales trainer will tell you that if you don't have those questions kind of written out already, then you should go do some work on that. So first things first, make sure you have those questions, because you ask the same ones all the time. Whether or not they're written down is a different story. But if they're not written down, if they're not in a place that you can actually store it, then you're going to forget things, and you're going to miss things along the way. So you can So qualifying information, qualifying questions is a huge thing, and you should be storing that inside of your CRM, because again, the key to building a good contact profile is to make sure that you have all the information that you need to make a decision as to whether or not this contact is a good prospective client for you. And that question, as we all know, goes as much towards the prospect as it does towards you as the salesperson. So first and foremost, qualifying questions, huge thing. Number two, your suspect questions. So when you're, let's say you've just got general information that you need to collect, right? So maybe you're territory limited and you want to make sure that these people in your territory, maybe you want to make sure that they're in a specific industry, or it's, anything like that. So building out that kind of a profile, building out those, determining those suspect questions and making sure that they're in your CRM so that you can enter that information reliably is really important, because what that does is it allows you to enter that information in, it allows you to ultimately score those leads and use demographic lead scoring as a way to determine the quality of a contact. And you'll have to forgive the fire engine in the background there. But again, I'm outside, so things happen. But so back to this, suspect questions. Those are a big deal, because if you can dial in those suspect questions, if you can determine even before you have that first qualifying conversation, if when you're entering in a new contact record, you're able to answer those questions, whether or not it's even worth taking a coffee with that person from a client perspective, or from a sales perspective, right? Not to say that they wouldn't be worth getting together with for a networking purpose, or for just to get to know each other a little bit better, but from a sales perspective, identifying whether or not they should be they're a good prospective client, first thing you need to do is answer those suspect questions. So you should have them in your CRM. Last thing that I'll tell you is a quick story about. Actually, before I go there, the key thing to this, and I mentioned this just a minute ago, is that you can score these leads, you can score these contacts based on that demographic information. So you should be able to assign a point value to every answer that is that's worth anything to your business to any one of those questions. So from a suspect perspective, what industry are they in? Where are they located? How big of a company are they? How many employees do they have? What's the title of the person that you're meeting with? Those types of questions, huge, right? And that's how you determine if it's worth getting into a sales conversation with them. And so if you can have those lined out, then you can use your system, you can use your CRM. Mission Suite does this. You can, and I know a lot of other systems do it too. But you can use that CRM in order to make sure that you are they'll tell you. So the CRM should tell you if it's worth having a sales conversation with them or not. But the only way that it can do that is if you put the right information in. So that's what you should be collecting. Last story that I'll tell you here is a story of a client of mine. They have something like 200 custom fields built into their CRM. And at first I thought they were nuts. I thought that was way too much information. But what it's enabled them to do, you can actually create a section of custom fields inside of your CRM for the first sales appointment, for another one for the second sales appointment, another for the third sales appointment. And so if you have a multi-step sales cycle, like we all do these days, but if you have that multi-step sales cycle, having those custom fields, you can create a list of questions that after the first meeting, your salesperson needs to be able to answer. And as long as they can answer all those questions, then they can move on to the second one. If they don't have the answer to all those questions, then they're not ready for the second conversation. So it does a couple different things. That helps, first of all, the salesperson make sure that they have all the info and that they're able to actually qualify those contacts and, again, score them based on that information. And number two, it actually helps with sales training. And I know I've talked on this a little bit before about activity lead scoring, but these user fields can assist with sales training too, because now every time that this guy hires a new salesperson, all they have to do is have them pull up a contact record in their CRM and say, okay, when you're in that first meeting, these are the 10 questions that you need to have answers to when you walk away. If you don't have answers to those 10 questions, you've got to either go back to the conversation, go back to the contact for a second meeting to answer what should have been answered in the first conversation, or they're not your guy, they're not your client. And so it helps all of these new salespeople actually build out and define their sales process and define their sales conversations a lot more effectively, because now you're in the middle of that conversation, you're looking at the information that you have to record on your CRM, or maybe it's printed out just, as far as the questions are concerned, so you can drop it in later, but all that information is already in the database, so all you have to do is ask those questions and then type out their answers, and then once that's done, you can save it and then it goes to whomever it needs to go, and then it's able to be used for proposals. It's able to be used for further sales conversations, for management conversations, training conversations, etc. So custom fields and the information that you should be using inside of that that you should be watching inside of that contact record is hugely important. And again, you should be able to create as many custom fields as you need to. So use them because they're super important. And so with that, I'm going to wrap up, and I'm going to say thank you so much for checking this video out. Hope you found it valuable, and share. Tell me your thoughts in the comments, and share to spread the word. All right, talk to you soon. Bye.